That's for me when I finally get it synced up. I'm gonna go a little bit further and it's gonna be like, you did a good job.
It's almost kind of weird that I'm on this side of the camera today because I don't do that. So you're lucky that I'm volunteering my face for that.
You walked in one time, I was working box office, and you're like, hey, I saw your promo or whatever, and I'm like, I was like, what? Applesauce be tasting fine.
It be tasting pretty fire, my guy.
And plus, they'd probably look at me funny if I'm flying a drone naked out there. I don't think that would go over well. I'm actually going to announce something here that I haven't told anybody yet.
Ooh, okay.
I am signing a deal with...
Welcome back to the Jordan Whitrock Show. It is episode 12, and we have an amazing guest with us today. We have the one and only photographer of all sorts. Whenever I've done a short film and I see him on set and he's got his camera, his Canon, I'm a happy man. That means Instagram is going to get good pictures. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Andrew Bott. Woo!
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching.
All right, okay. So... obviously, I brought you in here, and it's because you have a wide knowledge of video, camera, all that kind of stuff. And so we can dive into that for sure, but I also want to get like a little bit of your background because I know you've done a little bit of work before you were even doing RTF stuff, radio, TV, film stuff,
right.
you know. And so like how did you get involved with that?
Sure. Well, thanks for asking. My background is actually from restaurant management. I started working at Buffalo Wild Wings when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I really didn't want to go to college if I didn't know what I wanted to go for.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was just get a job that you can handle, work, pay the bills until you find out what you're interested in.
Okay.
Well, to be honest, it took me like 10, 12 years before I finally like figured out, man, photography and being behind a lens is exactly where I belong. So it's almost kind of weird that I'm on this side of the camera today because I don't do that. So you're lucky that I'm volunteering my face for that today.
Well, it was nice too because I was literally, I think I texted you yesterday. I was like, hey, I'm like, any chance you want to come on this week and tomorrow?
It happened to work out. I'm glad it did.
I'm lucky.
Honestly, shout out to my photography professor because we are not having class today, so it made this work out perfectly.
Let's go. Okay, so you're in Buffalo Wild Wings, and you decide like, hey, I love photography. Was there a moment, or like, were you working with a camera for the company, or not the company,
Actually, not really. I mean, it's a very sports-heavy environment, so I was pretty familiar with like live TV, keeping events on, knowing when things are ending, switching things.
Got you.
I essentially worked with a video switcher that handled 12 plus TVs at a time.
They have a video switcher for that?
Exactly.
I thought they had 12 remotes.
Well, they have a couple of remotes, but yeah, it's all in a big rack in the back.
That's cool.
You push buttons, switch everything.
Got you.
It's really smart, but you know, after a while, I just realized that restaurants weren't really my thing. COVID came around, and I moved away from the restaurant and actually switched over to Quick Trip. They were a great place to work. They really taught me a lot about how to lead people and run a business.
Okay.
Not to say that Buffalo Wild Wings didn't do that, but Quick Trip gave me a lot of power to
What
really
did you do
learn.
with them then?
I was an assistant store leader. Worked at a couple different stores in the Fox Valley. But it was in my time there that I picked up a film camera again and was just kind of shooting for fun, learning a little bit about it.
What was your favorite things to shoot?
I mean, honestly, I just took it with me everywhere. Sometimes it would be landscapes. Sometimes it'd be a nice foggy day outside a Quick Trip. I mean, it was really anything.
Oh, okay. This makes so much more sense.
But to be honest, I took a ton of just awful pictures. And I'll say that because that's how you learn. I mean, out of like 20 to 30 bad pictures on a roll, I'll get 5 or 6 great ones. And the more that you look at which ones turned out well and why they turned out well, you'll end up trying more like that. And you're going to end up with more good-looking stuff in the end.
Yeah, okay. All right, okay, so you do Quick Trip, and that's after COVID?
Correct.
So then what leads you to university?
I was at a store that, honestly, it was great. It was a brand new building. I loved my team. I loved what I was doing. But just suddenly one day I woke up and I just realized I needed something different. I knew that I liked cameras, and I knew that I wanted to study something with that. So I actually set up a tour at UW Oshkosh. I originally applied for art. So I looked at the art department. I spoke with the photography professor, and
Is
I knew I
photography
wanted
a
to do
part
that.
of art, or is
It
that?
is. It's an art class. Yeah, so I actually had to have Tom, the professor, waive art prerequisites for me because I didn't take any of those art classes,
Yeah.
but he knew that I could do photography. So the other part of that is I ended up touring with Justine, the TV station, the radio station, and I knew that there was more potential to make money in that realm than art.
Yeah,
Nothing against art
No,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
great, and I'm
Yep.
sure some artists do phenomenal.
Yeah.
But like for me, I mean, people need media, people need advertising, people
Yeah.
need photos. I mean, that's never going to go away.
Yep.
And at first it was just a hobby, but once I applied to go to school and I was
Yep.
accepted, I actually ended up applying for a student photographer role at UW Oshkosh, and they
Gotcha.
hired me within a month.
Okay.
And so I was learning alongside their
their
photo and
photography.
video
Yep.
people. And it was fascinating to see that like people actually liked my work and they wanted to pay me to do it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was like,
That's
man,
weird.
I take a bunch of
That's
shitty
weird.
film pictures, and they're like, no, we
Yep.
want you here.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, I had people reaching out for me to do work on my own,
Okay.
not with the university.
How did was that you like putting your name out there, or they just knew you worked for the university?
It was a little of both.
Okay, yeah.
Some of it's just like Instagram or Facebook, like that
Okay.
natural
Yep,
social
yep.
media. But some of it's, they say, oh, I saw him take pictures there. I'll ask him to see if he can help me now. And it quickly turned into me needing to make an actual business entity and
Yep.
pay my taxes, you know?
Yeah. Did you worked for, so like knowing you, like I think the first time I met you that I remember, maybe we met before this, but we were at like a basketball game or something like that, and you were running video board or something like that, and I was just like the engineer helping everything kind of thing, and you were like, oh yeah, I work for, was it Fox or NBC or who was?
I was working with CBS at the time.
CBS,
Yep.
the one I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were CBS with the news, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do with them, or how did you get that position? Because you were still a student when working, which is like, in a way,
That's
it's
right.
cool because it's not backwards, but you obviously would get the degree, then you go work for a television station, whereas like you already had this. Like when I heard that, I was like, why are you here?
No, I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Here's the way I looked at it.
Yep.
I said, if I'm paying all this money to be here and learn, and I already know at least this
Yep.
much, why don't I just try to see if someone will give me the opportunity to do it and
Yeah.
learn? Like, why
Okay.
wait
Yep.
to advance your own career? Like, I already know enough about it that I can make something for someone.
Yeah.
I think just bringing them one project and said, this is what I've made, this is what I want to learn, they quickly brought me aboard. I was working in
Gotcha.
creative services.
Okay.
So I was basically making commercials and promos that
Yeah.
you see on Channel 5. Which is awesome because like not many juniors have a portfolio
Yeah.
of professional work that's
Professional
airing on
work.
TV.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember because I had to make like, I had to make promos for the theater department, and like why I sighed was because I wanted to do so many, like I was like, hey, I'd love to take like clips from like rehearsal and stuff like that, which is like, it's not, but due to preferences for people in the department, head of the department, like they were like, well, no, we really don't want that. So then they're like, but I want you to make a promo for the show, and I'm like, so what can I do? I'm like, what can I do? And so I think it was funny because I think you walked in one time, I was working box office, and you're like, hey, I saw your promo or whatever, and I'm like, I was like, what?
Yeah, I was literally at work, saw the email from Jane come through. Oh, Jordan put this together. I'm like, let me play that.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, that was perfect real world experience for
Yeah.
you because the clients that I would deal with there, they either like don't have a plan and want you to come up with
Yeah.
it, or they have a very specific,
But,
here's what we can
yeah.
do, here's what we can't do, good luck.
I know, and so it was frustrating because I was like, we could like do so many cool things, or I know. One of the shows that we did, we've never had promotional stuff on like social media
Sure.
for shows, and I'm like, hey, like this was before everything came down on the department or whatever through the university, before we realized we were in that much debt, the university was. I was like, hey, like we need to like promote this show to like get the biggest audience. If I'm someone who doesn't, like, I'm not a part of the show, not associated with the theater department, what's one thing that's going to get me excited to come to see the show? It's like, oh, like see the process of how it's being like done and made, because then when I go to the actual show, I can see, okay, what's the final project product looked like. I got to see like when you could see all the stuff in the background and the set wasn't fully painted or built or the costumes weren't fully done, And so I took one picture of all of us, or I had someone take a picture with all of us guys wearing like half of a costume. And it was like it's like one of those scenes where it's like, exactly what it is. So it's like cool to see like, okay, this is like what it was at the roughest point. And I got my ass chewed out by the whole department because they're like, the costumes weren't done, the set wasn't fully painted and done, like this is like gonna wreck our quality, like people are gonna think like this is our quality of what it is. And I'm like, and like luckily like I got chewed out by those people, but my head of the department I was working in the theater department was like don't talk to my student like that's not your work, or come to me if you have an issue kind of thing. And she was like, bro, I liked it, like I thought that was good. But I was like, I was like, fine, like I at that point I was like, cool, then I won't promote any more show because I wasn't getting paid for it. But
I
was
guess that
like,
brings up an interesting point, because everybody likes behind the scenes of photography, of like photos of like short film productions, larger productions. But I guess some people get sensitive over when information's revealed to people. Yeah. So it's almost like maybe they would have preferred that be like after the theater has announced the show. Then be like, here's some behind the scenes looks at us setting it up. And I could see the other side where they're like, this gives them a bad idea of what we are.
And I think I put in there like behind the scenes, show opens, not done. But I was like, it's fine. I'm like cool. Like I get it that it's your art, it's not my art. Like that, I'm an actor, so my art is the acting part, So if you maybe caught me stuttering over lines and posted it, maybe I could understand. But also to me, that'd be funny. So like,
yeah, I mean, I love that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah,
blooper reels need to happen.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so you do a lot of behind the scenes photography for short films. Yeah, and I think that's when I've really seen a lot of your work like play out or whatever. So is that something you like doing, or like what are your thoughts?
Actually, the way I got into that was Bailey Laird was a senior my freshman year, and I met him in film society, and I was like, this guy's got some good ideas, and I want to work with him as much as I can before he's gone. And that quickly turned into him just saying, bring your camera, get some pictures for us, try it out. Yeah. I didn't really know that people did that until then, but suddenly you see me on almost every shoot.
What's the position called for that?
Just BTS photographer.
Okay, yeah.
And honestly, I've met a couple of people in Oshkosh that do the same thing.
Okay.
I've worked on a few short films over the last year where I was there helping the film, and another photographer was there, and he and I ended up talking, and now we're best friends, and ran into him again a couple of weeks ago on another short film.
That's cool.
So I think photographers love to help other photographers. Yeah. And realistically, like, if you're trying to get into it, you need to embrace that. Because not only will they teach you anything they know, but they're also like, they may need an assistant one day, or they may be booked on a day and they need someone else to cover something. Yep. You'll be the first person they think of if you're putting yourself out there.
So you're saying it's not toxic, or at least in this area in the country.
You may meet some people that are.
Like competitive, like over
some people don't want to share maybe their competitive edge. Yep. But I think that most people are at least willing to work with you on a basic level and like try to get you started. Certainly can't speak for everyone, because sometimes it is competitive, and it is like you may lose a client, gain a client, and you don't really want to step on other people's toes. But it definitely helps with the whole idea of like networking will bring you work. Yeah. Someone can't take a job, but they'll send it your way. Yep. Now you may have a lifelong client,
Have you ever run into stepping on someone's toes? Like, has anyone confronted you, or like not necessarily confronted you, but you could tell like, oh, they're mad or something like that?
To be honest, no.
Okay.
But I think part of it's just because I'm pretty upfront about trying to like talk to people in advance. I think the closest I may have ever gotten was a person being photographed that didn't want to be photographed. Oh. But then it's as simple as, well, we won't use this image. Like on campus, they want pictures of students doing stuff. Yeah. Every once in a while, a student's like, no, I don't want to. Gotcha. It's fine. We do that. We can go take someone else. Yep. But if you don't have that conversation with people, that quickly becomes a problem. That could maybe give you kind of a bad rap.
Yeah, I remember the proudest moment of my life was getting on the Oshkosh Instagram page.
I bet. And, I've found that my niche with that is the drone stuff. People eat that
Yes. Okay, we'll go. Wait, okay, before we get into the drones, I have to say, Alex is back. We brought him back in. We're 20 minutes in. But
into the show.
Alex is back. He got his wisdoms out. Alex, how was that procedure?
We're doing pretty good.
Doing great.
That applesauce be tasting fine.
It be tasting pretty fire, my guy.
Okay. Let's go back to the drones. Okay. Because that's one place. I remember, like, my brother got into drones, but he never got a drone that was, like, good camera quality. Like, I remember it was so cool to have him, like, just zoom around the yard, and then it was, like, skipping, like, every 3 frames, but it, like, wasn't terrible, but it was bad.
It's a start.
Like, I've seen a lot of the stuff that you do with your drone work.
Sure.
And I would argue that that's got to maybe be, like, one of your best assets, because who is taking that good quality with a drone, has the equipment that they can be like, yeah, let's go do it right now,
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. I guess I want to start off by saying thank you to Mike Essler's 114 visual.
Okay.
I forget what it's called. Intro to visual.
Like
visual
114
design.
or 15.
Yeah. We were watching a movie every single week, so
Yeah,
that class
yep,
was super
yep.
cool, and we would always talk about
Yep.
how did they make things, how did they do things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what movie we watched, what scene it was, but he put something up on the projector, and he said, "How do you think they made that?" And after 5 minutes, I realized, I'm like, that was a drone shot. That could have been done by some dude with a controller, and it would have.
Yep.
It's easy.
And he was like, helicopter. It cost 1.9 mil. No.
Well, we did talk about helicopters and cranes
Yep.
and other things, and I'm like, well, that's not really my thing. But
Yep.
I asked a friend who knew a little bit about drones. I'm like, what
Okay.
do you know? Like, what should I try out? And he suggested a DJI Mini 3 Pro. I mean, it's a little
Okay.
guy. It's pretty easy to get your hands on.
Yep.
Shoots good footage. The thing is, like, I tried taking a couple pictures with it. Really didn't necessarily know what I was doing
Yep.
at first. But an event approached me about printing one of my drone photos and putting it in an art show. And so at that moment, I knew I'd hit the jackpot.
How did that happen? Like,
So
you were
there's
just
a,
posting your pictures?
Exactly. There's a film photography club in Appleton called Photo Op.
Okay.
They reached out to me and said, we want to show some of your work. We don't have another aerial photographer here. Could we...
Okay.
They asked me if I could send them some images to
Yeah.
pick from. And they picked one and put it up. And... oh my God, it was incredible to see a print like that large. I don't print stuff like that.
Yeah, no.
And it was awesome to see that they loved it enough to print it, frame it, put it in a show, and invite me to come be a part of it.
That's cool.
It was really exciting because that was when I knew, like, that was almost like my niche.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I need to continue
And that's what I was going to say. I'm
pursue
like,
it.
based on the sounds of it, it sounds like you're the drone guy in this area now, because
There aren't very many
no
that
one
do
else,
it.
has a... Because we've been on a couple sets where we've worked with your drones to
Yeah.
get a shot or two, which is always just fun and unique to
One
do.
very quickly turned into 3. They all have different uses and
Yep.
like purposes.
Okay. So what
But-
kind of drones do you have then?
I have 3 different ones
Yep.
from DJI. The Mini
Okay.
3 Pro I mentioned.
Yep.
I picked up a Mavic 3
Okay.
next. And latest, I have an Inspire 2, which
Okay.
is basically like a flying cinema camera. Like, you can change out the lenses on it. You can shoot in ProRes.
How
which
big is
like
that?
an
How
editing...
like? I would say, is that the massive one that
Yeah,
I've
it's the
seen?
huge
Okay.
boy.
Yeah.
That one, it's... People don't like flying those things because they're huge, but
Well, also
I
just
think they
like-
fly better.
Oh, I bet they fly better, but you make one mistake, it costs more than damaging a smaller drone or something like that. Would be my fear. And again,
Certainly.
I don't have the talent to fly it, so that's why I'm scared.
That's also
but-
why insurance is a thing.
Yep, true,
Yeah,
okay.
because not only do I not want to crash that into somebody's car and be liable, but I want to be able to replace the thing if it maybe gets hit by a bird or somebody shoots the thing. I mean, you never really
Yeah,
know when
true.
it's up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like, you technically have to be able to see it, but those things get pretty tiny the farther away they get.
Okay.
You never know when something might just happen and it's gone, So insurance is pretty important
I've
to
seen
me.
some of your photos where you're hot, like way up there, where I'm like, not that it would ice over, but I'm like, doesn't that thing like start working really hard
get
because
cold.
it gets cold up there, But yeah.
Yeah, you
That's-
can go up to 400 feet.
Okay.
Pretty much anywhere that doesn't have like an airport nearby. There's
Yeah.
lots of restrictions you'd have to
Okay.
learn about to know where
Yeah.
and when is
Do you
safe.
have to take a class or no?
Not necessarily,
Okay,
but there's
yeah,
an
yeah.
exam. So you could take a class to do better on the exam.
Okay. Did
That's
you
what
take a
I
class?
did.
Oh, okay.
I paid for one of those online like course kind
How
of
much does something
styles.
like that cost? Because like I see that as like being equivalent to like, hey, if you wanted to like drive an ATV on the trails, you got to take a course to
Well, let
take
me
the test.
say that
Like,
the cost was minuscule compared to like what I'm taking in doing the work now. So for
Okay.
$100 for a 2-week
Oh.
college course
and
style
that's
thing,
like what I would assume it would be. Yeah.
Yep,
Mhm.
I did it in less than 2 weeks,
Okay.
and I got like a 95%
Okay,
on my
yeah,
test,
yeah.
so I knew it wasn't going to be a problem.
Yep.
But that exam and passing that test was like, that's the key to be able to do tons of things that other people can't do.
Yeah. No. Mm-hmm.
Oshkosh has that airport
Yep.
smack in the middle of the city, and it actually restricts drone use in almost the whole area because of the airport. I mean, you don't
Like the
want
whole
someone
city, or like
almost the whole
Really?
city. Yeah, there's controlled airspace in just a giant ring that goes around basically the whole city of Oshkosh.
Huh.
And certain areas allow you to fly certain heights without impeding on air traffic.
Okay.
But if you have this license, you can apply to do things where other people can't.
Okay. And have you applied?
Oh, I do it all the time.
I was gonna say, I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, I've seen photos. I'm like, well, if this is a large. I'm like,
Well, I found out, I'm like, well, what does it look like to do the
Yeah.
paperwork to be able to do this? And as long as you got a week or two to be able to wait for the FAA to look at stuff,
Okay.
I mean, sky's the limit. So I figured out, I'm like, well, if I do this first one this easily, I can try here.
Yep.
And suddenly I'm flying in
yeah.
places that other people have dreamed
Well,
to.
I wonder if that's too, like, they get used to seeing your paperwork coming in
I would think so.
and no problems. That not necessarily that it would go faster, but they're more inclined to be like, yeah, no, he's good. Like,
Like, oh, Andrew's just trying to fly again. We'll get him through.
yeah. Like, I wonder if there's that, because it's always in every world. There's always like, you got to know a guy who knows a guy. I think there's a song that I like now, and I'm forgetting the name, but it's like everybody knows somebody that could get you somewhere or something
Yeah.
like that. And it's like, that's fast. Like, I wonder how far, like, where do you want to take your photography or drone? Is there like a, hey, I want to be on Hollywood sets, or no, I want to be in Africa taking pictures of lions, like Natural Geographic? Like, what's your?
I guess I've never truly thought about that because I guess the drone is just one tool that I use.
Yep.
I've been focused so much in developing the like basic photo video elements of my business that sometimes the drone's just like an add-on
Yeah.
or something fun.
But would you ever take your photography to another continent or into the higher echelon of filming?
I think I would do it if I had an opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
I think something like if Nat Geo approached me and said,
Yeah.
like, we need you to go do a shoot. I mean, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Okay, would you go to Antarctica?
I would probably try to pick somewhere warmer first, but
No,
I mean,
they're
if
like-
that's where
they're
they
like, hey,
asked, I mean, I
Andrew,
would go for it.
Andrew, you either go into, okay, wait, here's one. You either go to Antarctica or you go to, like, what's the hottest place on the earth? Sahara Desert?
The Sahara.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sahara Desert.
I think the desert would be badass. Go find some
Yeah.
some elephants and some camels and
In the desert?
Yeah.
Are there elephants in the desert, or is it on the edge? No,
Uh,
but
more
it's
like
the
the
heart. It's the
edges.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, if you're
No,
talking, like,
you're the
way out
heart.
in the
You're the
dunes-
heart in the dunes.
I mean, the first thing I'd ask is why do they
Why?
want photo
Yeah,
and video?
How many
back? But I
pictures of
mean-
scorpions do you need? No.
But at the same time, I mean, if some like Jeep style
Yeah.
video wanted to be produced out there, I mean, we're gonna go dooning out there. I mean, I'd bust the drone out and do that. That'd be super sweet.
Yeah. You would do that over going somewhere really cold? Are you like a warm or cold person?
I prefer warm.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm open to anything. I mean, I live in Wisconsin, so
Yeah.
I can handle some cold. I
Yeah.
can handle some heat.
I don't know what I am. Not Andrew. Alex, what are you?
I definitely think I'm more cold.
Like, you'd rather be
Interesting.
cold?
Yeah, like
See, I've always said cold, and here's my reasoning. You can always put more layers on. If you're hot, the lowest you can go is get naked,
Yeah.
and you can't do that. So
Who says you can't?
That's true. That's true. But hey, there's restricted areas, just like your flight zones.
That's true. And plus, they'd probably look at me funny if I'm flying a drone naked out there. I don't think that would go over well.
They're like, hey, this guy's got a heck of a mirage going right now.
Never thought about that.
No,
Wow.
yeah. See, like, but then again, it's like, I would never. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, climbing mountains? Not necessarily for photography, but, like, would you ever climb? Like, I think of Everest, and it's like how they say, like, people will die up there, and it's like, I don't know if I have that dog in me to, like, want to go somewhere so extreme that your chance of dying goes from, like, 2% of daily life to, like, 30%.
Here's an interesting thought. Have you ever heard of Ansel Adams?
No.
He's a famous photographer from like, early to mid 1900s, and
Okay.
he was shooting with 4x5
Yeah.
films.
Yep.
He was contracted to go to the back country to what essentially became America's national parks.
Oh, yeah.
So when he
So
went
wait,
there,
wait,
they
wait.
weren't parks.
So is this like Teddy Roosevelt time?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So like right before these parks were a thing, he was there with his camera in the back country taking these photos of some of the most raw American nature that there is. And I think, like, wow, what a frickin' guy. Like, not
What was
only
the name
did
again?
Ansel Adams.
Ansel Adams.
So he's taken some of the most iconic pictures of
Okay.
backcountry America.
I'll have to
and
go check
I
them
think,
out.
like,
I bet I've
man,
seen them because,
you probably
but
would
I
have.
would never know that it was him that was taking all of them. You'd assume
Exactly.
it'd be like 27 guys within the span of whatever.
I often think of what would it have been like to be in his shoes. Like, they're going to pay you because they know you take great photography, but they're sending you to a place where few humans want to go at that
Yeah.
time. And you'd have to backpack several days to even get to the spot
Yeah.
that he would set up and take some of these pictures. Could you imagine taking a week for a hike and only halfway through it, you're finally at the spot you wanted to take pictures at?
You know
That's
what's
insane.
Yeah, you know what's crazy though is like to me that almost sounds exciting and fun. Like if I was told, hey, like if I was good at it, or like, hey, like we want video footage of like an area, it's like I would totally do that in a heartbeat. Alone would be scary, and then again too, it's like now we have all these resources that you would take that it's like okay, it would be less scary, but it's like back then it's like, hey, you don't have a flashlight.
It was untamed wilderness at the
And
time.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's like even if I go into like, I think most things are now national parks and there's limits on how many predators can be in those areas based on just the food chain and all that kind of stuff, and so it's like I would be less scared now.
Well, they have defined trails now, parking lots,
Yeah.
places to put up camp.
How many ribbons
They
do you have
didn't
to put on
that then.
trees so you know where you're going, you know? It's like that's crazy.
It is wild to think about. But honestly, take a moment with some time and just look up some of his pictures.
Yeah.
I think you'll be
What's
in
his most
awe.
iconic picture? Like for people listening, like
There's this shot, I think it's in Yosemite, where you see this giant cliff. There's the moon, and it's just like framed up in some trees. I think it's called Moon Over Half Dome. It's like
that actually sounds familiar.
one
Like,
of
I
the
feel
most
like,
popular
yeah, okay.
pictures that he's ever taken. And he is sort of like the inspiration to my like wildlife photography. Like it gets me outside, gets me trying stuff out.
Yeah.
But I know that I'll never be able to take phenomenal scenes like he did. Not only is he working with a piece of film that captures just so much more than
Yeah.
our cameras can, it's just a whole different time. The untamed bit of wilderness is just simply not there anymore. You know?
I got back from spring break, but we were at the ocean or whatever, and I brought my camera to see if I wanted to vlog with it. Decided
Sure.
not to, and then I was like, why don't I just start taking pictures? And I did. I think I had autofocus. Like it was like bare minimum. I was like, cause it's outside and I'm facing the sun is in a weird spot, so I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to like get that ISO on the right spot. But I took one really good picture of my sister, and it was like one of those where it's like I was purposely trying to get the angle, but then she just she didn't know I was taking a picture, and then she just happened to turn her face to like talk to my other sister, but I snapped it, and I was like, chef's kiss. I was like, that was good. And I was
Well,
like,
what you're learning is the basics. Not only do you have to have your camera with you, but you have to turn it on and take
Yeah.
tons of pictures.
Yeah.
And I say take tons of
Yeah.
pictures.
and most of my others were really bad because of the autofocus. So
But
like,
that's okay
yeah.
because honestly, I'm like, I'll go shoot a wedding, come
Yeah.
home with 3,000 photos, and end up with 750 that
Yeah.
are good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just the nature of the beast. The more you take, the
Mm-hmm.
more good ones are going to turn up.
What are your thoughts on like? Well, so it's interesting. So like drone or like that aspect of flying high, taking those like. What are your thoughts on? Would you ever get involved with like underwater photography of like where there's like not necessarily scuba diver taking a picture, but like hey, you're using a machine that's got a whatever they call it, telewire or whatever, all the way back up to the ship. You know.
I was looking at enclosures
Okay.
for one of my cameras. Not only could I not afford it, but like,
Oh.
I don't know. Underwater is actually like, I guess, the opposite of what I normally do. So I
Okay,
guess
and
I
I
never
had no.
thought
I
about
just
it.
was like, if you ever thought about like, oh, that would be fun to.
I mean,
Which
I'm
it
open to
sounds like
trying
it
really
sounds like you were
anything.
like it would be fun, and then you saw the price tag, you're like, for another time.
I guess you could rent one, you
Yeah,
know? I mean, that's another sound piece of advice for people is like you really can rent stuff and get it for a fraction of the
Where
price.
do you rent stuff?
I mean, there's a lot of different outlets.
Yeah. What's
like,
the most common outlet for people that are like is there one that's like
there's some
countrywide
websites out there,
or
but there's also like there's a local camera store in Oshkosh that does
yeah.
short-term rentals too. So really it just depends what you want to rent and how much you're willing to pay for
that's
it.
pretty cool.
The other thing too is that like sometimes those costs get passed on to the people that are paying for the work.
Yeah.
It's like if I had like some beach resort that said, Andrew, we need you to come out here, take some drone, get some photo, video, and then we need you to go in the water and get some of the reef. I mean, I'd say here's the bill for the enclosure and the scuba gear that I'd need, but like it's
what's
just part of
what's the
business.
craziest thing someone's asked you to take a picture of that you're like your brain's like, why would you ever need or want to take a picture of this? But like, hey, they telling me what to do.
Admittedly, I've actually never encountered that.
Okay.
Almost everything that I've taken on is either like very methodical or it's for advertising or it's like weddings. Those are just moments that you don't want to miss.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, I've had a couple of people who they hired me and they weren't going to hire a photographer. So it's like that feels like extra pressure for me because now it's like I have to prove to them that this was not only worth their money, but that I can help them relive this moment for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had people reach out to be like, to me, they're like, you're in radio, TV, film, right? Like, you should just take pictures for weddings or whatnot. And I'm like,
it's definitely not for everybody.
I'm like, well, and like that, but also it's like, there's so much more to taking photos than you think. It is harder than using your iPhone and going, nice.
But I do think it's natural for RTF students to end up behind a lens in some fashion. And cameras may not be everybody's forte, but every cameraman needs an audio guy.
Yeah.
And every audio guy needs a lighter to
do
light
you
the
use
set.
audio for a lot of your stuff or no?
I mean,
because it's photos.
Drone,
so
no. Photos,
still
no.
shot,
But yeah, I mean, I do enough video projects where there's some audio mixed in.
What's the coolest project you ever got to work on?
I do a lot of drone stuff, so I think all of those are unique.
Okay. Was there like an area that you shot that you're like, oh, I like this is so cool to get this point of view?
Well,
I would never.
I did
think
one flight over Titletown, and we were looking at doing another one this week. It just ended up not working out.
And who was that through, or was that just your own?
Just a couple different clients, just
yep.
individuals I met.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that is just a nice, iconic area.
Yep.
But they have so many rules and restrictions on like that area itself.
Like
and what
like
you can
the
show
Packers
and such.
do, or the city. Yeah.
But technically, the only one that matters as far as flying over it is the FAA.
Yeah.
It's more of what do you want to do with that content.
Yeah.
If somebody wants video of Lambeau Field, they got to pay the Packers to use that.
Yeah.
I'm just the guy that shoots
Do you have an
it.
idea of how much that would cost to like, hey, Lambeau or the Packers, we want to use?
Well, I think they do it per project. It's kind of like because they're licensing out.
But is that something where it's like,
things.
hey, that's $5,000, or hey, that's $2,000?
It would probably. It's totally dependent on where they're going to put
Okay.
it. Like if it's going to be on TV versus social media or like a website, they would treat each one of those things differently. So I really wouldn't be able to say.
Yeah,
And that's
okay.
obviously something I've always passed on to my client.
Yeah.
You want to license this? You can figure out how to do it. I'm just the guy that shoots
No
the
one
clip.
pays me to
You
do-
figure out what to do with it.
That's funny. Yeah, no, it's definitely an area that I want to get more versed in. I don't know if it would happen, but yeah, no. Do you have any? So maybe you haven't thought out exactly where you want to take your photography. Have you had any ideas? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, do you have like, now that I've given you 10 more minutes to think about it?
Lately I've been clinching the wedding biz.
Okay.
It's not necessarily my favorite,
Yeah.
but I'm good at it.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. I'm like, if I just tie up 10 Saturdays
Yep.
for 10 weddings and then a couple days after each of those to edit, I'd make more than I was making working 40 hours a week at Quick Trip.
Yeah. Okay.
So think about that. That's like 30 hours of working time a week that
Yeah.
I can spend on whatever the heck I want to and
Yeah.
not worry about paying the bills anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, like, people are always going to get married. You find the right venue or the right outlet, you'll stay busy. People like it.
Are you a one-man show when you do that, or do you ask people to come?
Originally, I was just kind of bringing in someone as needed.
Yep.
But one of the last associate shooters I had,
Okay.
we are actually banding together and making a standalone business. So they're my partner now, and it's nice to be able to know that I'm not editing 3,000 photos alone.
Yeah.
They're gonna help me weed some of the bad ones out, help me kind of get some of this editing started, and having another set of eyes to say, Andrew, what are you doing there?
So do you only do stills, or do you also go a little in video? Or
Well, this new package, we're offering a photo only, a mix of photo video, and then we have like a all inclusive, like anything and everything we can possibly throw at you.
So what does something like that cost? Like, just
we're
in the sense
kind of pricing these out between $4,000 to $10,000, depending on how much you need.
Yeah.
But all of that comes with a lot of cost too: renting gear, making sure that we're paying for
but also
software,
it's
insurance.
time commitment too, because it's and also you have to look at it at the standpoint, like, this is how I see it and how I can be like, okay, I understand why maybe they're asking for so much, or it might feel like it's so much, but it's like, I mean, realistically, how many times should you be getting married? One time. So if that's the case, then I worked for you, but you're not really a client that I'm going to work with again.
Yep.
Supposedly.
It's a one and done.
So it's a one and done thing. So
yeah.
it's like, hey, like, I'm not going to, like, like, I think that's what's ironic is like especially China will make their products, or companies will make their products that are like a little bit weaker. Or you'd be like, and I think the funniest thing is they could make vacuums silent, like those hand vacuums, but the reason they don't is because when they had vacuums that were really quiet, people would complain because they'd say, hey, it's not picking anything up.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, we didn't do anything different, we just made it so it was silent. But people are like, but we want to hear the noise of the stuff getting sucked up because it tells us that it's working, compared to it being silent and you don't know if it's actually working.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, like, just like that, there's products where it's like, if we make it better quality, people are never going to have to buy it again. Like, if we make it less quality, there's likely that they'll break it or get worn out, and it's like, then they'll have to get a new one. And so I think, like, you have a one-time client, you're not going to be able to go back to be like, hey, you need more photos for a wedding? It's like, no, that's what
my
it was
only
meant
hope
for.
would then be that their bridesmaids and groomsmen are all like, well, they're getting married next, and Andrew did a good job at this wedding.
Have you had a lot of trickle down that way yet?
Honestly, this is the first year that I'm even doing any advertising. Okay. Every single bit that I've ever done was word of mouth. Either I knew somebody or they knew somebody, and we talked once upon a time, and suddenly they want projects. But I try to remind people that it's not just fun. Like, every hour that I shoot, I'm editing probably at least 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So if I'm there for a 10-hour wedding, it's probably 30 hours of editing afterwards. And like, people are like, well, you're charging $100 an hour because you're here for 10 hours. That's $1,000. Well, I'm working 4 times that.
And what they don't know is editing sucks, and every person I've talked to hates editing.
Right, Alex? People do.
That is correct.
You either love it or you hate it. And the people that love it, they cost a lot.
Yeah,
so
because no one likes it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that being said, if you are looking to be an editor, reach out, because we're going to be having an opening at some point in the next year or two.
Hey, I gotta get my editing skills up to par. Maybe we turn this podcast into an editing podcast instead of a live podcast. No, that's funny.
Well, I guess if you want to hear a little bit about some of the ideas that are brewing.
Yeah. Like, what are some of your plans for the future? Yeah, definitely.
5-year plan is to have a studio space.
Okay.
That can do photo, video, or rent out an editing suite. Because I want to have a spot where I can edit that's not on my couch. I don't have cats on my lap. And something where, like, if you needed to edit something, or if you had a client that's like, can you just do this, and you don't have the computer to do it, you can come to me. We'd help you out.
Or whatever that
exactly.
would be. Yeah.
Or you need to shoot the interview and then edit it. We got both of those.
Yeah.
And I think having something in, like, Milwaukee, Chicago would be, like, absolutely incredible.
Okay.
So the kind of work you could
you're
do
thinking
there.
Possibly in 5 years moving.
I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, just because there's only so much in the Fox Valley.
Yep.
I want bigger. I want better. I just feel like the market down there would be the kind of market that I need to grow into for sure. I was wondering when that was going to happen.
Hey, you said cat, and we summoned a cat. That's power of words right there. All right,
But no, I've learned that the fluffy cats, they cannot go without attention for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So I
well,
get
this is my child, so I don't know if they can actually see him, but this is my child. He doesn't like anyone else. Like my parents would be like, yeah, when you, because I moved out for a year,
Sure.
and they're like, that was the most miserable he's ever been was when you moved out, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be moving out
They
for
can probably see him now. Huh?
in another 2 years I'll be also that just hear his long purring. He's got some asthma or something.
Poor guy.
Actually, I don't know what it is, but I think he's allergic to something, like could be allergic to dust. And it's like, okay, you live in a house that was built in 1877.
Cats have allergies too.
Dust ain't going away.
Yep.
So like, I think every time I like sweep this room at least twice a week, and it's still bad, but
It's the fluffy ones. Nice.
we should wait. See if we can get this. Alex,
Get a little purring action in there?
Get some purring action. Okay, speak into it. Do you hear it?
No.
Turn your head. Wait, maybe I gotta pet him. Wait. Oh, that was a good one.
There we go.
Ah, yes.
That's the
There's some
good stuff.
ASMR for you guys. Hey, that's
New
a
podcast
yeah, that's a new podcast idea. It's just I invite people's cats over and we just take audio.
I have been seeing a lot of those ASMR reels lately. Maybe
Really?
we could get into that.
Dude,
Yeah.
you know what I hate? AI stuff.
Me too.
It's actually like it's like really annoying because it's like
It can be a tool that can be helpful,
yeah.
but it should not be your only source of creation.
Yeah, no, I yeah, no, yep, mm-hmm. And then actually what really ticks me off is like I'll get an AI video and it'll be like, okay, like immediate swipe, and then I'll get it again.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? Like the algorithm.
And what
I literally
sucks
swipe.
though is it's a trend, so you're just
Yeah,
gonna keep.
and
seeing
then
more
the
more
best
of
part
it.
is like people will interact with it and be like, oh, this is AI. It's like, hey, dude, whether you thumbs down or thumbs up or comment, it's going to make it.
Your interaction is encouraging.
Exactly.
It.
And so it's like sometimes you just need to shut up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I unfortunately don't think it's going anywhere anytime.
Do you think
soon.
that's going to impact like photography?
It could.
Or I guess not really because it wouldn't. It would take a false image of an area, you know, like.
It can generate some stuff, and
Yeah.
I think there's certainly going to be some jobs that get lost for
Yeah.
it. But I mean, wedding photography, you can't
No,
fake
yeah.
a wedding photo. You can't fake being at the reception and getting the dance. You know,
I was at a wedding this summer, and for some reason I got put next to the guy who's doing photography for the wedding.
of course.
So we talked for like however long or whatever, just learning like what, and like, I think this would have been not almost a year ago. So he was saying like how he started like 2 years ago, and what his big thing is like he takes like weddings that he shot and like does trailers and stuff like that on YouTube and whatnot for all that kind of stuff, which was cool or whatever. And I think like he like kind of like we were saying, it's like he only has to do a certain amount of weddings during the summer, and then he's kind of like editing them the rest of the year, but like
Yeah.
you know, going through that and whatnot. But
To me, it was a no-brainer because it's like, what are the opportunities that I'll have to work on stuff for myself
Yeah.
if I'm not tied ball and chain to a 40-hour-a-week job doing
Yeah.
something I don't like. Not to say I didn't like working
Yeah.
at the TV station. I loved what I did. But 40 hours a week to go home with this much pay when you're like, man, I could work one Saturday
Yeah.
a week for all summer and not even have to work the rest.
yeah, no,
Not to say that it's that easy. I don't want people to think that this is like easy and anybody could do it.
well,
But if you
anyone
passionate
could do
about
it if you
this,
were good at
could.
taking pictures.
Correct.
No, not everyone's good at taking pictures because they don't have the patience. They don't have the idea and the vision of, okay, if I put myself right here when the bride walks down the aisle, what will that image look like? Okay, it's going to look bad, but this side would look good. So you make that like people don't have that ability to make that decision. And that's what sets you apart from being someone who just takes photos for wedding and then being someone who takes photos.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
photographer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting and unique. So would you go Milwaukee over Chicago, or just depending on the market?
Probably depend on the market, but
Yeah.
I think Chicago seems more interesting to me personally. But
Yep.
I would be close
Are you
enough.
from Wisconsin?
Yeah, I was born in Oshkosh actually. So I spent
Oh,
almost my
really?
whole life here. Yeah.
I never knew that. I thought I would just assume that you would have came from a different area or neighboring area. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that like because I was in Oshkosh is why I ended up at UW Oshkosh. Their RTF program
Yeah.
is incredible and really well known. And
Yeah.
like I've met people in my time who would hire an RTF grad over someone from Point or Green
Yeah.
Bay where they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, not to knock on their program, so I'm sure
Yeah.
they're fine. I just
Yeah.
think there's a little bit of a different caliber that comes out.
It's so funny because it's like, as I'm looking at graduate schools and they'll be like, hey, where did you go to school for your undergrad and stuff like that, and me being like, oh, I'll just put my school, and then Oshkosh never popped up for any of them.
Can you imagine?
Because and like this would be the equivalent of D1 school compared to D3, so the size is just bigger and whatnot. But I was like, sad.
I gotta ask, did any of them like personally recognize the program or like know the name?
No, that's what I was shocked at, because I was like, and I guess it's a smaller school.
Yeah.
But I have to laugh though, because when I did my tour, I didn't know what I wanted to do senior year.
Sure.
And I was like, I probably will just go to Oshkosh because it's close, and at least for 2 years until I figure out what I want to do. And my mom's like, hey, there's this program, like you and Dad should go check it out. And I was like, okay. And at the time, the chair, the head was Randall.
Okay.
Or not Randall, Randy. I
Randy.
don't remember. Now I'm getting mixed up. And he toured it really cool. I saw the other professors. I come back the next year because I decided to go there.
Sure.
The guy's gone. It turns out he was
Yep.
retiring that year, but never said anything. And I was like, cool guy. I would have like wanted to be under him, kind of thing. But everything happens for a reason and whatnot. But
I have a friend who went to the RTF program right after high school, and I didn't. And it's interesting to compare and contrast with him some of the differences of things that have happened. Just like for the one that you just mentioned
Yep.
is one for sure. But even just like some of the equipment and like kind of caliber of work that we've
Yeah.
been doing over the last 5 years is way different than what they were doing 10, 12
well,
years
and
ago.
that's just like cheapness of technology, like you're saying. Like that stuff was more expensive, kind of like a Tesla. You ain't gonna buy a Tesla on the first year that it was made. Partly because you never buy a first year model of something, because they got to work out
Yeah.
the kinks. You always buy the second. There's the little fact for you guys.
right
Oh.
here.
But also, it's just like it's way more expensive because there's less volume, in that sense. And whereas, like, if you wait a little bit, it gets a little cheaper. I mean, maybe with the tariffs, it'll get more expensive. But so maybe don't wait. Maybe figure out
Yeah,
what
I
the
would
tariffs
get
are.
started now if you're thinking
I
about
just bought
it.
my 4 terabyte now because I was like, I needed storage first off. But then I was like, well, if I wait any longer,
It's going to be more.
could be rough.
But yeah, space is definitely going to be an issue if you're going to keep doing this long term.
Yeah.
Because, I constantly buying more hard drives, more space.
But and that was like one of the things I like learned straight off. Because I mean, I would like edit a live stream and then delete the live stream because I'm like, okay, I don't need it. I got the footage I need. And then what I'd hear from people is like, never delete footage
Ideally, no.
because you never get it back. And I'm like, there is something to that where it's like, oh, it would have been nice now to like look back and have that full thing because I only edited like the little clips that I needed,
Sure.
and it's like,
Alternatively, as a photographer and videographer, everything that you shoot has the ability to often be licensed. So, like, maybe I'm just shooting some clips of downtown Oshkosh for fun, and they turned out cool. But 6 months down the road, maybe the chamber says, you shot something a few months ago. Any chance we could have that?
Yeah.
If I would have deleted the original, it would be basically pointless. I couldn't give it to them.
yeah.
But if you save all that stuff, now you made money off of that.
Do you have
Maybe you go sell it as stock footage too, and you
Yeah.
make more money.
Do you go PC or Apple? What do you use for all of your stuff?
Right now, I have an Apple,
Okay.
but I worked with a PC at work.
Okay.
I mean, I more.
Do you prefer
For me,
Apple?
it's more the software. It's
Like
not
that's what I'm
necessarily
saying. Do you like
yeah.
the software of Apple more than PC?
I use ones that are on both forms.
Okay.
I guess for me, I think that the Mac tends to do the rendering out of a program better,
Okay.
but it doesn't necessarily do the editing better.
Yep.
I think that's where it's more program specific. Some might work better for one machine, some might
Yeah.
work better for another.
Yeah, I know. I went through a phase where I was like, so we like my family's always had has always had Android phones wise, and then something happened where like the price of those phones went way up or something like that, and it was almost to the point where it's like, well, why would we get like this if we could get Apple? And there was a few kids in my family that were very adamant about always wanting an Apple phone to fit in, whatever that is, And me personally, I was like, I always wanted an Apple. I wouldn't say I wouldn't want an Apple, just because you went to high school but also I was like, I'm not gonna pay for it. So if my dad's willing to pay for like this cheaper phone, because that's what he can afford, like. I'm not complaining because then I don't have to pay, but something happened where we ended up with Apple. So then it was like I had like a Samsung watch and I was like, well, why wouldn't I get an Apple Watch? And then it was like through the music department, you need to have like an iPad or something like that because that's how they read music. And it's just easier. And so it was like, okay, well then instead of getting a tablet, I'll just get an iPad. But then when I started really getting into streaming and all that kind of stuff, I was like, you can't do some of those stuff on an Apple or the stuff that I wanted or the apps that I wanted. You can't do on Apple that you can do on PC.
Yeah.
And so then that's what led me to
Makes
PC
sense.
because Apple does really good for what it is. Like if all you need is like these things, Apple's the best because it's going to outmatch PC. But if you want these things that Apple's like, hey, we don't do that, or we don't have the ability to do that. We're protecting our products or whatever we have. So we don't allow that. It's like, oh, okay, then PC is
hardware wars.
Exactly. and so now I'm like at this funny stage where it's like as like I'm getting to the next point in life where it's like, hey, you're gonna move out, all these bills are now gonna be yours. It's like, what do you want? It's like, do I need that Apple phone that like, let's be real here, I don't really use it for like, how many times do I FaceTime people? I think I've FaceTimed 2 people in the last like month and a half. And it's like, okay, I maybe can get away with not having FaceTime anymore. It's like
makes sense.
Things like that where it's like, yeah, I do like the interface of Apple, but do I need it? Probably not, especially if it's going to get really expensive up here quick. So.
Oh, absolutely.
But
well, I've moved on to the approach of like, this is the 13. I'm just going to use it till it breaks.
Okay.
So, like I don't take photos with that. All it's for is calling people and doing things that I need to do.
I have a 12
online,
and so I'll probably take that until
you can't take it
it's
anymore.
obsolete because I own it now, so it's like you don't have that extra bill of paying off the phone or whatever, and so it's like I'll own that then until it dies, and then maybe I would go to like a Google or Samsung because I also feel like those phones are getting better.
Sure.
Just in general, I think with time, I think Apple had such a major lead on all of that, but yeah, no, I don't because I was like, dude, would I get when I was looking at desktops? I was like, should I get like one of those like big Apple, whatever they're called? I was like, do I get that? And I was like, all the research I was doing, they were like, I mean, unless you really only use Apple products, stuff like that, like go for it. But if you have a desire to use other stuff, like I would go PC, which then led me to getting the desktop that I have now, kind of thing. But yeah, no, crazy world out there. But
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all I have for you. I've learned a lot about photography and taking photos and
Do
stuff.
you have any other last requests? Or
I don't think so,
second
but do you want
bits?
to plug in your business and all that kind of stuff? Do you have anything you want to plug in for people that are watching this in the area that need a photographer?
I'm actually going to announce something here that I haven't told anybody
Ooh,
yet.
okay.
I am signing a deal with the Hotel Retlaw in Fond du Lac to be their exclusive wedding photo video provider. You heard it here.
Hey, round of applause. That's crazy. Let's go.
They reached out to me. It's a bit of a marketing business-to-business thing, so it's not.
And this is a
free
part
for
of
me.
your new, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is, if you were going to go book a wedding there, we're the people they recommend. Or if you were going to take your business there,
would they
for
allow
an event,
other people to take photos there, or they're like, hey, if you're going to use our product, you have to use our photographer?
we're the recommended one.
Okay.
So technically, if someone's like, we really can't do that, or we want this person, they could still do that.
Family
but
friend
we're
and-
the only person that they're going to be recommending out. So to me, that's going to be huge because it's not just weddings; it's corporate events. It's all sorts of odds and ends.
Is that promotional for the just weddings, or is that promotional for the hotel itself in the sense of like?
Well, they won't necessarily be licensing anything from us, so it's we're more or less just the recommended group to come in and provide their media. So
everything.
to me, that is huge.
That's insane.
Because this might be an incredible couple of years.
I was gonna say you were saying how you were, a lot of your business for the time coming up here was just word of mouth. It's like imagine
this is a huge step.
It's
to
like
be
that's
quite honest.
That's like a big leap from where you were. That's awesome, dude. Congrats.
Thanks
that's
so
awesome.
much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
no, that's
really
awesome.
looking forward to it.
Cool. I can't wait to hear more. Maybe we'll have to have you back and hear the 1 year
Would
of
love
what
to
happened.
do a follow-up and let
Yeah,
you know how
follow-up
it goes.
episode of all that
Hopefully
stuff.
only great news.
Yeah. Sweet. Cool. Well, we'll take it to the GoPro. Thanks everyone for watching the Jordan Whitrock Show. I hope you learned something like I did from Andrew, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cool.
Thanks
Peace.
again.
Yeah.